maybe this is, I don't know if we can use this, but it might be a fun place to start.
Yeah.
So Mike, though we just officially met, we frequent the same haunts, if you will. And I saw you the other night at Grove.
Oh, you were there.
And do the bit, and I then watched the comedian after you do his whole set about your set. And I snapped once at Grove recently. I went up towards the end, and I had a couple people had done crowd work, and I was just like, I don't know who told comics it was a good idea to practice crowd work on like another comic at an open mic, but it might be the biggest crime in comedy. Like, I don't like what's gonna happen? Like, is Mike gonna follow this kid to shows now? And like, the only way this thing, if he's practicing like you're supposed to do it at an open mic, the only way this works is if Mike goes with him and does this same bit every time before him for all of eternity until he no longer does that anymore. Like, it was crazy to
Well, my thing
watch.
with him is I'll let people roll, and he's the type of guy, like, I would pay him $20 if he could explain to anybody in the room what he was talking about.
Oh, truly.
He walked away from that conversation. I believe he was like, man, you're really super left wing. And I'm like, I just don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know how what he was going on about. The reason he was doing crowd work, and you see that at Mike's, and you see shows that are in disarray, is nobody is telling anybody anything. Nobody's putting that kid in check.
Oh, 100%. Right.
Like, I would say, like, it's not going to help him, but no one in that room, I almost wanted to tell him, I'm like, you need to go to a hood room. Because if he did that in a hood room, people would be like, yo, motherfucker, what the hell are you speaking about? And he'd get, like, confronted, like, what are you talking about? But yeah, that used to happen to me so much at Mike's. When Tuma first moved to the city, right?
Yeah.
He seen me at the creek. It was like basically the 2 times in a row. Like, I rolled in the creek. Similar thing. I did a bit. Someone heard one of the words, didn't understand it. They shut the mic down. And they got on the mic, and the girl gave a story about how she had been raped multiple times, and basically was like, so Tuma is like, oh, after Kerrigan gets up at Mike's, like, throughout this, they shut Mike's down. He gets yelled at, screamed at.
Dude, he told me that. He told me that when he moved here.
I knew he thought that because I could see. I'm trying to explain. I'm like, dude, this never happens. He's like, dude, I've been to 2 mics, and 2 of them have been shut down. You've been at.
Well, he goes, dude, we always knew like Kerrigan was like not the most certain. Kerrigan has his face where certain people will go up to him and be like, there's something about it. Like, it happened that remember we were walking around and that guy just stared you down, and I was like, I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it with my own eyes, but that guy was like, I hate this guy and I don't know why. He
was like a street vagrant, but
and he stared you.
You know who you are, you know what I mean? Yeah. I know, like, if I catch my face in the mirror on the train, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not particularly friendly. But I'm not a smiley guy, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know that I am friendly.
But Tuma told me that he was like, yeah, Kerrigan, he keeps telling me that, like, he'll do a joke and, like, the mic will get canceled. I didn't believe it. Dude, I've seen it twice. The mic's been shut down.
They're not really doing that anymore. That was, like, a peak time of activist comedy. Like, someone actually explained to me, because I was getting very frustrated, because I was like, there was certain people I'd seen. I'm like, they don't seem to like comedy. They don't seem to like laughter. And I've actually seen some of them before, like, almost stop people from laughing, like, whoa, not here, like at a comedy. And I'm like, and then someone was like, dude, they're not comedians, they're activists. And I was like, oh, I get it now. They, and you don't see them very long. They last actually, you don't see any of them anymore.
Well, I do like this thing that a lot of these comedian activists I've been hearing are quitting comedy, which is great because they should be activists. We're missing out on a lot of activists.
I don't mind activism either which way. Like, I'll do what I think, I'll do it, but I'm not going to,
What kind of activism are you doing?
Freedom Rally. I'm involved with the Freedom People. But I'm not going to
that adds up.
I'm not going to do like they were using comedy for their I don't like that. They were like using comedy and they're not about comedy in any way.
Well, I think the thing is that, and we were talking about this a little bit before, but like a lot of these people have never performed comedy anywhere else in their life. Like, you cannot, we're supposed to be, I do nothing political in my act because I just feel like, to me, it's like, if I'm in Duluth, or if I'm in whatever, Buffalo, whatever blue collar city where people actually work and they don't live in New York City, and they have real jobs where they have children and they have a driveway they have to resurface now, and it's on them to do it. And like every day is like a battle to like live, they don't necessarily want to hear anyone's opinion on anything. They want to hear like, why is this thing that it also happens to me funny? You know what I mean? Like, so it's so obvious that like these people, when they come up here they get on stage with really not jokes, but more points, that like you've never experienced like a real crowd. Like you've experienced a real New York crowd, and you've experienced like people that are maybe very smart and on the same page as you, but you have obviously never been in a room of people that like think the opposite way of you and have been paid to make them laugh. Like, I'm sure you both are similar, like where you start. Like I came up in rooms, the two rooms that I came up with when I started in Pittsburgh was the Pittsburgh Improv, which was a predominantly black room when I first started. And they wanted a lot of white MCs because, it was a juxtaposition, and we were like sacrificial lambs. And then it was fire halls, VFWs and fire halls. So talk about like a complete gap. It was either me opening for like Tony Roberts or Corey Holcomb, or me in 2 hours outside of Pittsburgh in basically Alabama, or Kentucky, at a place where there were fire trucks being pulled in, very close to where we're performing, and it's 300 people that are farmers and firemen who this is the biggest night of their lives, and who haven't read a paper in 20 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you can't, with that kind of stuff, you can't have an agenda. You can't, like, your comedy can't have like an agenda other than like to be funny. Or if it does have an agenda, it has to be funny.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, it has to be funny.
I think everyone does have maybe not everyone comedically, but most people do have some kind of an agenda.
Yeah.
I don't like when it's pressed on them, and when it's not, if it's not done funny, then you're just,
I think like, at the end of the day, it's like, we're paid to be entertainers. We're supposed to entertain people. We're not supposed to, nobody wants to be taught anything, really. You know what I mean?
That's why I got into this. It's a lecture.
Right. It's good reasoning, but like nobody, if you learn something, that's a plus. But most people go to a comedy show because they want to like let off some steam. Nobody goes to see a comedy show because it's like, I wonder, like, what this person that, is essentially a birthday clown thinks about, like, like the economic affairs of Greece. Like it just, it doesn't, who cares?
Yeah,
who cares
exactly.
what I have to say about that?
I like that point, and I think there's a lot of, that has kind of been removed. Like, there's very few guys you see that approach the stage like, this is a performance, and I can do anything. You could get up there, you could fall down, you know what I mean?
Right.
You can do... you know what you just said, like, what was that quote? There's a quote, I think it kind of ruined comedy. And it was like, when the politicians aren't speaking the truth, like the comedians have to be like the politicians. You know, that thing I'm saying?
Yeah.
That ruined comedy, because a lot of comedians are mentally unstable.
Right. People should not be looking for, it's the opposite. People should not be looking for comics for like the point of view of the world. I feel like
or like the moral high ground.
Right. Yeah. We're just supposed to be there so you can let off some steam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I like comedy because I think it runs that whole gambit. I think it's gone too much the other way, which you were talking about, like too much with the points and all that. Because you got your Chris Rocks, who are like informative and funny, but we don't have as many, like, I'm trying to think who's like a guy who just makes everybody laugh. Just
like I don't know. Like I listened to Brian Regan and Jim Gaffigan growing up, and it's like you watch those guys, and you're like, this is just like the silliest, funniest to me thing because, and you don't even realize that they're not talking about any. They're talking about. Brian Regan is talking about letters in a name. He's taken it so minuscule down to the letters of a name and how you spell names and stuff like that. And it's like that is to me just, I don't know. I think about like when people want to go out and relax, like they can just laugh at that. There's no ulterior thing. There's no motive. There's no agenda. People don't have to feel negatively of like questioning why they're laughing or what they're getting from it. It's just like, that's just somebody whose whole body is comedy. You know what I mean? Like the way he moves his arms is funny. The way his face is funny. You know what I mean? The way his comedy is just inside of him. He's more comic than he is a human, you know. I feel like with people like that. But yeah, I feel like you don't see that much anymore, you know, like with, you know, comics. Like no one's just...
No, it's all, everybody's got either a point or wants to do comedy to do something else.
Yeah.
That's always
very few people.
That's always been common in comedy. Is the before it was like Tom Hanks was a stand-up. A lot of people don't realize that.
I forget. Yeah, you forget that.
Like a lot of people, if you were an actor, like just do if you could even get through stand-up, to like do it. For your acting career.
Right. Yeah.
They'd be like, now you're more than just, you know, a nameless actor. Michael Keaton,
yeah, Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah.
He actually was like I think he was like a real deal chops comedian.
Yeah, I remember seeing him on Norm Macdonald's old show, and he was talking about some of his old jokes, and they were really funny. But yeah, he was like at the store, like he was like he's a funny guy, you know.
He is hilarious. Like I could imagine him just walk. He has that Kramer thing, like he could just walk on stage with his face, and you'd be like, this is hilarious.
Right, yeah.
Also, before we get too far in, we got to do an introduction.
All right, you do the intro. I
We never do. We know, you know, someone. This is a kind of our thing. We talk for like 10 minutes and then we go back and we didn't even introduce you.
I'm just here now, dude.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
I just live
listen,
here
we
now.
fucking. That's the thing. As soon as we get rolling, we also like to put a wedge right in the conversation
That's
and
smart.
go, "Hey,
Shut
we
it
need
down.
to shut this down."
Bar
and start.
rescue style.
But yeah, so our guest today, back at the Sea Otter Town Hall podcast, we have Mike Kerrigan, obviously always on mic, Dylan Krasinski, and our good friend, my best friend, Collin Chamberlin,
Wow.
right here.
Yeah,
sitting next to
Colin,
us.
you just got
Thanks,
that best
dude.
friend pressure. That's part of our
crazy.
podcast.
Wow.
Dylan will also ask you throughout this podcast for plans for like tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah.
He likes the high pressure, so like. But actually, I think people have just been straight being like, nah.
Yeah, no, nobody has fallen to the pressure. Everybody's been like, nope, I'm not hanging out with you.
Also,
And
if
I'm
you
like,
don't
cool.
invite him to your wedding, it'll come up during the podcast.
Yeah,
at
you know,
some point.
Jack didn't invite me to his wedding. Super rude.
Well, I have a lot of problems with Jack Burke, and add that to the list.
I mean, we could do a
Don't
whole
we all?
segment on that. Maybe we will.
Yeah. Yeah,
will.
I do think that guy needs to be taken down a notch.
Yeah, called me fat a lot.
Yeah.
A lot on the pod. I mean, if he was on a couple weeks ago, so, you know, ladies and gentlemen, go back, look at the clips because he needs to be canceled.
Kid's a real
Yeah.
elitist.
Unfollow him if you're listening to this.
Blue blood and blue collar. That's
Yeah.
the worst combination.
God, I hate him so much. I hate him.
So yeah, Collin, welcome to the pod.
Thank
Welcome. Thank you for being here. We're super excited because, you know, pretty exciting stuff right now happening in the world. Actually, not exciting. Kind of, I mean, I don't want to get right into talking about the war, but I mean, as this is recording,
Right. Yeah.
as this is recording, I don't know. I think this is going to come out a couple weeks later. So this might be a topic that needs to be cut.
Or maybe it's like it's over.
It's over. Maybe.
All right,
you know?
we should have two things ready. We should either have. So I think we should first do the sad one, which is like, well, you know, it's been 2 weeks since the war started in the Ukraine, and obviously this is our last podcast because we're about to be drafted, and we just got our numbers. Or we should have one that's like, that was so quick.
This is very. I mean, the U.S. didn't do anything. It was in and out. Russia,
just,
fucking.
Yeah, they were like, we were wrong.
We're not. I'm under the. I don't think we're gonna do anything. But
You don't think we'll get into it?
He
No.
keeps sending. Uncle Joe keeps sending troops. I just saw him send more troops.
He's
I
sending.
just don't
Where's
buy
he
it.
sending the troops?
I don't know.
No, because-
don't ask me these things.
I watched
All
him.
right, all right,
I don't
cool,
know a ton about it, but I did watch a military general who was saying like, if you were going to put up a resistance, like this was a little while ago, he was like the window was closing and then it closed. He was like, if they're playing, like he probably shouldn't have said that. But I mean, Russia already knew.
I mean, now they're already. As of this morning, recording the podcast, I went to bed last night at like 1 a.m. and they were like, "Hey, we're sending some troops in." And then I woke up this morning and people are like, they're bombing parts of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, no offense, but I'm not. I wouldn't go to this war. I don't have a clue why. You know what I mean?
Well, I have a lot of things going on. I can't get drafted.
I have a question. What? If you get drafted, what would you do? I mean, Mike can't go because of his flat feet, But Collin,
Right.
I mean, you are a prime candidate to be drafted.
Do you think so?
How old are you?
29.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought it was like
Oh,
15
yeah.
to 20. No, not 15.
I think they
18?
might get rid of the. When
I
I
do-
was
I do
younger,
think
I
they're
was
gonna get
legit
rid of it.
nervous they were going to have a draft.
Yeah, me too. I remember signing up for like when you have to do the selective service thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember like it becoming very like a real moment of like, am I going to be drafted? Like,
As you're signing, you're like, do I really need to vote? Like,
Right,
who really
yeah.
needs the right?
I have a couple plans in case they try to come and get me.
What are the ones you can say publicly?
Well, I mean, for a long time, I was telling people I had asthma because I thought I did. And it turns out I technically don't, but I 100% could start wheezing. And I feel like they'd be like, no. And I would just, I think it wouldn't take them long to be like, he's just not an asset. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
he's more harm to us than he is good. Like, seems anxious,
He always needs a water break.
Right. Well, I also was thinking, like, it is going to be crazy if I don't think there will be a draft. Cut to 2 weeks later, I have war paint on my face, and I'm in a Ukrainian, apartment building with an assault rifle.
Dude, you think in 2 weeks you could get prepared enough to get into a Ukrainian building with an assault rifle?
I think that's the problem is I won't be prepared enough, but I'm still going to be there. But I think, yeah, like with like, back in the Vietnam era, it was like I have flat feet, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever. That was the big thing. Bone spurs, obviously, we've heard. But like, I think now it's just going to be fascinating if there is a draft just to see all the reasonings now that people are like I even tweeted today. It's like people are just going to be like, it's really not my vibe. Like, it doesn't really align with like sort of my energy. And that's going to be almost a valid reason.
Dude,
like,
DeStefano had a great tweet this morning. He goes, for World War III, to get drafted, are you also going to need to be vaxxed?
right. Yeah. I mean,
If you're not,
Oh yeah.
dude, Kerrigan,
I'll never be
Kerrigan's like,
drafted.
I'm not allowed to get into restaurants in New York City. Why the fuck should I be allowed to go to a war if I'm unvaccinated?
right. Yeah. You make a good point. That
Yeah.
might be the thing that really,
So people are all gonna jump on the unvaxxed wagon, and there'll be guys like me, like, yo, this dude's vaxxed, bro.
I'm going to try. If that's what it is, I will try to have it removed. I don't know if it's like snake venom where you have to have someone suck it out of you or something, but like,
Yeah, like at the
I will,
beach.
yeah, or maybe
Pee on it.
Yeah, pee on it like a jellyfish. But if that's the case, the thing
Actually,
is,
that is the case that you just made up. Actually, that is a great loophole. You will be kicked out now, just of regular
For the
service.
military, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
straight up, dude. You just gave the people at home like that's your way out of military service.
I also just think though we're at a point with like, there's not a lot of like patriotism, if that's a word, with this country anymore. You don't see a lot of people like, what can I do?
I would agree that it's as somebody, I don't know if I'd be considered patriotic. I think it's unpatriotic to fight in American wars. I think that's the stand you need to make.
I think that's a very unique take.
Bro,
Yeah.
Is it though? Since Vietnam, how stupid do we got? How many of these wars we got to be in? Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. None of them are just. You know what I mean? None of them were like people like, we did the right thing over there in Iraq when I raided that village and I threw that mom out of her hut. That was the right thing. Freedom, baby.
Just light stuff.
All you got to say is before. I don't know if people have wisened up. All you had to say before was they don't like your freedom. You could name a country like Argentina. They're like, what? Argentina doesn't invade. It was so stupid. I think
Got
at this
a little more
point,
complicated with the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what freedom?
And so many people have podcasts now and are working on things that I feel like they're just not going to have the time to go fight.
Dude, can you imagine just like if they just drafted out of like New York City and LA, all the people who'd be like, I have anxiety.
If they try to get me, I'm going to be like, I'm booked through March. Like, is that... I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Like, it took me a long time to get into some of these clubs. So if it's
you don't
possible...
understand the work that
Here's-
I
Yeah.
have.
here's a question,
I have
though,
to send my avails next week. So.
Yeah.
Is there any physical regiment you have to pass, after you're drafted? Because I think back in the day they may have people were generally like, dude, most of these people just are straight, not even close. They'll go on the treadmill, like, dude, this guy's about to have a heart attack, even though he's 21. It's like, he's not going to fight, right?
Some of these people who can't get up off their couch, they're not joining.
No, but what are you literally going to do when the obese people? What are you going to do with them?
Dude, there was a time in my life when I was about 275, 280 pounds, I would say.
How old were you?
If it was yesterday. I was like 24, 20.
Damn,
25,
that's
275
heavy, dude.
is what I was, I think,
Wow.
maxed at. 275, 24, 25, somewhere around there.
So the heaviest I ever was like 245, 250, and I was fat, dude.
Yeah, dude. I was fat.
Ray, do you have a picture?
I do. I'll show. I'll find it real quick. But Ray, I sent him a picture of when I graduated college, and he called me Thick Nolte. That's what he said. He goes, "What's up, Thick Nolte?" Let me find a picture. Dude, I look like I got stung by all the bees in some of these pictures. Wow. Hang on.
I have a picture of me from freshman year. Dude, that was the problem. People said, like, when I went to college, people are like, "Oh, the freshman 15," and I was like, in my mind,
there's a picture of my face,
dude.
Right?
That's you.
That's me.
That doesn't even look like you.
So, like, I will let that happen again if they.
Oh yeah.
I will let that happen so fast if they start calling birthdays on the TV and they like a lottery system. I will eat like I'm getting the chair. I will eat so much. So don't tempt me to put this weight back on. All right. My weight fluctuates so much already, but if you dare me to do it, I will. I will put it all back on and some, just to be sure.
Dude, I got a bunch of candy in my Amazon cart. I'm ready to hit fucking purchase any day. As soon as it's like just Sour Patch Kids, gallon-sized bags, right in my mouth.
Food is, I feel like we have a similar thing. I don't know if it's the same for you, Mike, but food is probably the biggest vice that I have.
Me too.
Over everything else.
Dude, I said I wish cocaine was my vice. I'd have a six-pack. I wish.
And you'd probably have the money to spend on it.
Exactly.
If cocaine is your vice, you are doing very well.
Yeah, no.
You know?
Very few people are using a straw or a $1 bill to do their cocaine. It's
Yeah.
all hundreds.
Right, yeah. What's your vice, Mike?
I don't know. I mean, I gave up most of the things a long time ago, like drinking. I guess I smoke weed. That would probably be it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Mike's biggest vice, knowing him, is fighting the government.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when I give up the weed, there's a 3-day period of I know, like, when I'm like ready to fight a homeless guy on the train, like, there's no hesitance. Like, I should just chill first. Like, he says something, you're like ready to like, what? That's when I'm like, all right. That's when I know I've quit weed 3 days. You get a 3-day period of like, it's like if you're a caffeine addict and you quit, your nerves are on edge. But I'd say that would be my only vice.
Dude, we've talked about this before, and I'm sure Mike has a ton of opinions that I would love to hear on how tense like subway stations are getting, right? So I'll say this real quick, and then I would love to hear everything Mike in the solutions that Mike has probably drafted.
We should draft the homeless people out of the subway system.
I feel like Mike has a plan, and he is ready to go. But Ray and I were at the stand the other night. We were talking to Paul Verzi, and he was just saying how, like, I haven't seen this city, like this in a long time, and it is getting rough out there. Like, just be careful. Very, like, kind, just, like, words of, like, hey, watch your backs, It's just, you guys are young. I know you're running around the city,
Being reckless.
So, like, sure enough, we get on the N train at Union Square, and as soon as we get on, first of all, one of the funniest things to ever happen, a guy is running for the train, feet go out from under him, hits the ground. Nothing funnier than someone falling.
Great.
In all of comedy, there's nothing funnier than someone, like, feet in air, back, then gets on the train and sits down like nothing happens. You'd think that would be the bit of the night. You were wrong. Then, who gets on the train? This dude, obviously, like, he's high, he's drunk, whatever it is. He's yelling at everybody. He's like in people's faces, right? It's like you're like, what's in his hand? Is it keys? Is it scissors? Is it a pocket knife? And all I could think about is Paul being like, the city's getting rougher. And I look at Ray, I'm like, dude, are we about to like, is this about to actually happen? Like, did we just speak this into existence? So like, of course, some there's a woman on the train. She starts filming him, and her flash is on, which I'm like, what year is it? Check your flash, you lunatic. Like, what are you, 15? Is this your first time recording somebody, trying to be discreet about it? She's like recording him, flash is on. He's now getting more animated. He's getting more upset. Train stops at the next station. We get off to try to get to the other car, because that, I feel like, is the move. You get off that car, you run up to the next car and get in. Don't have time, train leaves. It delayed us 25 minutes. And I at that moment, I was like, I get it. When people were like, we got to clean up the streets, I went from being like, these people need help, to like, lock them up. Like, I'm 25 minutes late to get home. Put these people in jail.
You very quickly go from, we need mental health services, to be like, you know what? Bring the cops back and let them go.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was crazy. But you do, we've talked about it a lot, Dylan. Like, you do feel the tension rising.
Yo.
I feel like.
I want to get into Mike's stories too, but I was literally, the closest I've been. I'm not going to fight a homeless person, obviously, but it made me super uncomfortable. I was on a crowded L train coming back from Brooklyn, and this guy he wasn't being super animated, but he came over and he like stood over me. And my first instinct is I stood up, which I know is like an aggressive, hostile move, but dude, I'm not. And he stared at me as if like he was like wanted to fight. And I was like, dude, I literally was like, I held my hands out and I was like, get the fuck away from me. And
did you say that?
Yeah, I go, get the fuck away from me.
Dylan is actually very good at these type of things.
Dude, he's like hovering. He's like right in our space.
De-escalation.
Dude, he's standing like 3 feet away from me and kind of like staring at me, hovering over, and I'm sitting down, and everyone just has their heads down, and I just keep picturing like someone just like fucking coming over the top of your head, hitting you. You don't know what these people are. I keep hearing Mike's voice being like, yeah, they just keep throwing them on the train tracks, just keep throwing them, people getting knocked out. So I stood up and I was like, get the fuck away from me. And he was like, and then people looked at me like they were like, man, what a jerk you are. And I'm like, all right. When this guy fucking knifes you in the neck,
dude, I
won't have your back.
Like most New York thing I feel like I've been a part of since being in this city. We are really teasing this when Mike enters the room here with his thoughts. But I was coming back from a show in the Lower East Side. It was like at the Delancey Street, somewhere around there, subway station.
The worst.
Is brutal. There's a dude like kind of hanging on the platform, but like leaning over the tracks. And he's like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. Right. And people are like, just like looking around. They're like, come on. No, you're not. Like, no one's taking it seriously. Right. One person starts to talk to him and like, could you please move? Please don't kill yourself. He's like, I'm killing myself. So then he gets up and he starts yelling at people's faces. He's just and so like everyone's moving away. Right. So he gets back down on the track again to like jump. The train starts to come. And it was the funniest thing because it was a bunch of people that like were like, come on, dude, you don't kill yourself, or like ignoring him, to being like, get up right now. Not because they thought he was going to kill himself, because they thought he was going to delay their train. Like, people were so mad. They were like, get up. Like, so one dude takes off. One dude takes off upstairs to get somebody. Everybody sort of flags the train down. Also, everybody gets away. They get out of the zone where they think, like, am I going to get hit with something, right? People just part. But, like, it was also funny because the other homeless people are now yelling at him because they're like, we got a good thing going down here, dude. Do not ruin it. They're screaming. The dude's like, I'm going to kill myself. He just gets up. The train comes into the station, the platform, and just gets on the train with us. Now he's just on the train. The cop comes on. They go, are you bothering people? He's like, no. They're like, all right, see you later. And like leaves. And now he's just on the train back to screaming at us. We're like, what is like, we were all ready though. It was a weird feeling of like, we were all ready to just like, you make your peace. You're like, I guess I'm about to watch somebody die. Like, and that's something I feel like is very specific to like New York City, where you just go, I am maybe going to watch someone die, but it's going to be an issue because I'm going to have to Uber home. Like,
and I know the Delancey Street is going to be surging because everybody's going to get Ubers.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm going to have to walk like 3 blocks to get out of this area.
The surge price radius,
yeah,
dude.
Right, yeah. What do you think we should do about these tensions in the subway stations, Mike?
Well, I got a couple ideas. One of them called a game. This is for like the youth.
Okay.
So if you know, especially these knockout.
I like how Mike says the youth, like he's 85 years old. If you weren't watching this, you would think, Mike, was he in the Great War? You know what I mean? Was he a bomber pilot or something? And Mike's just like, it's just the funniest. The youth, right? So the youth. Tell us what we need to do with the youth.
They need to play a game, right? Well, especially these knockout kids. They think they're so tough. The new game is you walk up to the most deranged guy at the subway. You know the guys. The guy that's screaming that all the white people pretend they can't see.
Right.
And you just tap
Like
on their
me.
shoulder. You go, "What up, bro?" That's the game. It's called What's Up. And also for like if you're a training fighter and you're like you really want to toughen up, you just go around the trains and you just start. You let them start. You know what I mean? Start a fight. And that's what's wrong with some of these guys is they've been harassing docile people. Like you've seen it, right? If you've seen when they're harassing people, someone has to step up and just
I've seen people on the train. They crawl up into this and they just they're like horrified. And I'm like, dude, you have to. Like, you're in the worst position. This guy probably won't do anything, but I keep hearing more and more stories about people just, like, getting knocked out who are in that position, like, if I don't move, like a T-Rex, dude. If I don't move, they can't see me.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah. Well, it's a real thing of, like, it's like, well, yeah, if I don't, it's a thing of, like, who's going to make the first move? Because you don't want it to be you. You don't want to be, you don't want to go on the offense and now just strike down a person that's mentally unstable because that's not a good look.
Dude,
let's be honest.
So it is dangerous.
You put your hands
gotta
on a
avoid it at
homeless
all costs.
person.
Oh,
they
yeah,
put
yeah.
their hands on you. You know how many showers you're gonna need to take, dude. You're gonna have to go get tested. I mean, Jesus, dude.
Yeah, I usually just try. My whole thing is avoidance.
Me too.
Just
Me too.
stay away. Like I try to stand in the middle of the platform. Like I really try to, get a solid frame. You know what I mean?
Dude,
Take like an athletic stance.
Better be careful. It can't be too tough. If the drafters see you on the
that's
trains, they'll
true,
fucking
dude.
scoop you right up.
They'll come and get me.
One thing I mentioned to Dylan that I did not know, and this was I had a problem with a mentally deranged guy on the way to one of these podcasts, and so we
Was
go.
it today?
No.
It's almost every
whatever.
day, though.
I'm sitting down. He wasn't like your typical. I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, he starts screaming at me. We go out and he starts threatening me. He gets up. He's like menacing. And I was like, all right, once he crosses here, I already knew what I was going to do. They're not taking, the thing is, this is what you should never get in a fight with these homeless guys. But if you know what's going to happen, don't allow them to take the first punch. Like if you know they're coming and you're going to fight for yourself, hit them first. That's a big mistake you'll see in all these videos is they'll always let them hit you first. Just hit them. So I was like, once he crosses this line, because he already threatened me. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm just going to sucker him. And after it all went down, the people got on like an intercom that I've never heard them use and go, hey, is he still on the train? And I was like, were you watching the whole time?
Did you hit the dude?
No. He got off and then a Latino kid, Spanish kid, he was heated on my behalf because like I did hold my cool. I was just like, but I also at the same time I wasn't going to bow.
Did you stand up?
No. He we were making eye contact and then he backed off and he started talking to the Spanish kid like about me. Spanish kid was like, no. And he went at him and then but that intercom thing is hilarious to me. Are they watching these things? And they came in after. You know, it was like after whatever was going to go down.
Yeah.
Then they're just like, all right.
Dude, that's what they do. I told you about that kid smoking a cigarette on the train.
Oh, forget about
They
the
must have been
smoking. Just
watching
get
him the whole
used to it.
time. He walks off the train, and then the conductor comes back. He goes, hey, that kid was smoking. Is he still here? And I was like, he's gone. And he's like, okay, we can move now. And then they just took off on the train.
Do you guys have a do you guys know any of the homeless guys? Like, do you know like their characters, like the opera singer?
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
I mean,
Do you know the opera singer?
No.
I guess like I've seen the same bit a couple times. You know what I mean? I see a lot of people doing the same routine, which I like the familiarity of it, but I don't know them personally.
I've seen two bits collide.
Mm-hmm.
Funniest thing ever. A guy goes, "You still doing that bullshit? You still doing that same bullshit? You ain't no vet. You ain't no vet." And I was like, these guys are almost like, it was almost like stand up at that point because they collided at the same time begging, so that's that is a beef.
They're fighting for
Yeah.
Came
an
in the one
audience.
door. This was before Corona when it was like, do you remember when I moved to city, it got worse every year with the homeless things, but I enjoy it. It's like I got 20 minutes of comedy out of it. But
what's the lady with the who was smoking weed on the train?
well, the no legs lady.
Yeah.
The real truth is that I had to adapt it for comedy reasons.
Yeah.
It was crack, and it was a horror scene at
She
West
had no
Fourth.
legs.
Yeah, and she'd while out, which doesn't work out when you like. I don't know if she forgot, she didn't have the legs with the
Sure.
crack, so she'd be on like whiling, and then people would be like, because no one knows what to do with an unlegged. They're like, do I like scoop her up?
Right,
here?
yeah.
She's all over the place.
Right.
And I mean, and that's why I came up with the joke. Like, it's a horrible look if no one has the context and they just see you just like picking up a torso and like, they're like, put her down, You're like, no, I'm trying to help her out. They're like, put her down, you piece of crap. And, but I blame de Blasio 100%. Every year I got in this city. That's because before I wasn't running into the clashes. There was so many of them. It was
Right.
like, there was teams down there. We had, and then you have your unsuccessful beggars. I used to do a bit about the guy who comes in. I seen him today. He's already mad at the whole train. He's already.
I've seen him on the
he's
L,
like,
dude.
nobody can spare a lousy dime, a nickel. All I need is a half a penny. No one can spare a half of a penny. And,
The Boston accent guy?
similar to a
kind of?
Boston accent. One of the craziest stories I ever heard, and this is probably from a comedian. If he watches, I'll give you the credit for it because it's his story. I think I seen this at a mic. He was on the train and a beggar was walking through and he was cursing everyone out. He cursed everybody out. You know how they go through the doors? He goes through the door, they hit a bump, boom, gone, dead.
Are you kidding me?
He hit a bump, and right after cursing everyone out, he hit the bump and he flew over onto the, which I didn't even know. When I heard that, I'm like,
Wait, so they open the doors to like let people off?
no, he was going in between
Oh,
cars.
in between cars,
Somehow there must have, it was either an angle. I've never seen it happen, but he got thrown off the train from walking in
Damn.
between. So that also was like, I don't walk in between, but I'm like, it's not because you see it enough in New York. You're like, almost like, maybe it's perfectly safe. I see
I've
guys
walked-
smoking out there. I've seen a
yeah.
guy urinating. I think one guy took a dump one time while talking to me. He kept the door open so he could speak.
Yeah, dude, Kerrigan told this story before, but you want to tell Collin that?
Oh, well, one time, this has made me feel bad. One day I was talking to this guy. I didn't know he was homeless. And we
Okay.
were vibing at the end of the, we're on the end
Like
by the
there's
door.
something that him and I have we have a common ground here.
Yeah, we were
you know?
vibing. I'm like, this guy's cool. And then halfway during the conversation, he gets up and just leaves the dorm. And he's like looking at me and he's just pissing. I was like, oh, this guy lives here. This is his house.
Right.
Oh, I didn't.
You're
not know that.
visiting him.
But
Yeah,
the
you're-
train they got their work cut out for them down there. I don't know how they're gonna fix it. To be honest with you.
Well, it's also a thing too of like if you're an MTA conductor, like I feel like this with comedy, and I felt like it with every job I've had outside of it. Of like, that's not my responsibility. Like I don't get paid nearly enough.
Dude, I wouldn't
to,
either. I'm trained.
interfere.
I'm trained in driving trains, not fighting vagrants.
Right, yeah.
Dude,
Not
you gotta
fighting
give me-
people on PCP.
You gotta give me a suit, like a power suit to fight these guys.
Do you remember when I first moved here? We were on the train together. We were waiting for a platform, and there was a dude whiling out. He was like trying to fight someone. It was very clear, trying to fight. And I saw a guy. He was like obviously off of his shift, but he's got an MTA vest on. Dude, we look at him. I look at him. I look at the guy fighting. I'm like, just moved here, so I don't get it yet. And I'm like, are you gonna do anything? I look at him. He looks at me. He takes the vest off and walks to the other end of the platform.
That's hilarious. He's like, my shift is over.
He's like, I have nothing to
I
do
have
with this.
clocked out, dude.
Nothing.
Yeah, do you want it? He just gives you the vest. He's like, go ahead. Why
Yeah.
don't you handle this? Yeah. Mike, have you been in a lot of fights?
No, not really.
Have you, Colin?
How many's a lot?
I don't know. Have you been in more than 5?
Yeah.
Really? Like bar fights? What's going on?
I didn't like fight. When I got older, I wasn't really into fighting. It was more when I was younger. And I wasn't a big into fighting. But
You ever just
Trying to think.
you ever have to like defend yourself fight?
yeah, multiple times. Like I remember a couple times. Mostly when I was drinking, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like I
Yeah.
remember I got jumped a couple times. And sometimes I think I was too. I don't remember. I was blacked out. But one time I remember I don't know if it woke me up, but I wasn't blacked out. So then I did fight. And looking back, it was crazy. They were trying to rob me, and it like went awry. Like because they thought they probably looked at me and I was borderline blacked out. So like you can just knock them over. But for whatever reason that night I wasn't as bad as I usually was, and so I pushed the guy. I got off the guy. I got my wallet back, but I didn't get the phone. And then I like chased one of them down. I remember this, and the kid grabbed a bottle and he broke it over the trash as I was like coming into him. And then he called he hailed a cab. This is in Boston, and got in the cab with a broken bottle as I'm chasing him. And I was just like, this cab driver's out of his mind. I guess I looked like the aggressor, but it wasn't the case.
Dude,
and they called me. He got the phone. It was bad dude back in the flip days. Or and I wasn't a phone guy. And dude, they tried to re-jump me. They called me and they're like,
kidding?
No. They called me. They're like, hey man, we got your phone. It's a pretty nice phone. And I was like, bro, that's literally the cheapest phone you can get at T-Mobile. And I remember I was going at him like, dude, brand new, it's $50. Now it's old, it's worth like $1. They're like, nah, bro, dude, you're wrong, man. This thing's sweet. They're like, nah, man, you need, come and meet us. I was like, hold on. Yeah, no problem. I'll just come, I'll have my pants off. You guys do whatever you want. You know what I mean? But
dude, you should have set it up, called the cops.
Looking like a sting operation.
Yeah.
If I was like younger and more enraged, I would have, got a posse together. But those guys are street dudes. They're never gonna, they're not that stupid.
They're not showing up.
Yeah.
They'll be somewhere in the vicinity and see if you are dumb enough to roll by yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
wow,
no.
that's
crazy.
have
you been in a lot of fights?
No. It never really came up for me. I mean, I was in a couple I feel like I played hockey growing up, and I was in
that's a fighting sport.
It's one of those things where it's like there's always somebody on your team that you're like, geez, we're gonna just have to. And I'm talking about not even like high school hockey. Like high school hockey, everybody is walking around with their chip on their shoulder. Everybody thinks they're invincible, right? So of course, when I played in high school, it was like somebody bumps into you and you're like, you want to go? You want to go, dude? Like you're just ready to kill someone, because you're stupid. And then I got older and I played these adult league games, which is the funniest, that's where that's the next sports documentary is adult league hockey, where it's
dude, I would watch that.
Dude, I'm
30
talking
for 30?
about, it's 18 plus. They do have senior levels. My dad still plays, a former Iron Lung champion. I believe it was 2020 Iron Lung League champ, 40-year-olds old.
2020, great year.
But my dad is still in the Iron Lung League, which is 40 and up. But we would play when I was in college and just got out of college. We would play these adult league hockey games, 18 plus. You'd put a team together, and I worked at a college that was known for hockey. So we had basically kids that played in high school or didn't really play in college but were decent, and then we had people that worked for the college, and we had the college coach that played with us, right? And I won't name the college because
come on,
I will, but a little bit of research, you'd be able to find it out. The coach and the assistant coach would come play, and they were pretty good for hockey's one of those things where it's you can be really good and be a lot better than a lot of people, but you're not so good that where you're in the NHL, right? It's there's the 1%ers, and then there's 75%ers, and then the rest of us, right? You know, and if you're in that 75%, you're gonna look pretty good. But you could never play in the NHL. But the coaches, these two dudes, they were older, they were Canadian, they were really good, but they would booze before the games, and we were playing at 11 o'clock at night, right? That's when you're playing ice hockey. You're it's the last thing you do is you're putting on all this equipment to play ice hockey, and these guys would always start fights. So it was almost a given that you were going to be in I would always just look for somebody that's I got kids, you know what I mean? I'm looking for somebody that's a dad, or that's I'm not trying to get hurt, or doesn't have insurance, to just sort of grab up, we're grabbing each other's jersey. Maybe you sort of give them a punch to the face, but you got a glove on and they have a helmet on, so it doesn't mean much. But I just remember thinking yeah, don't you guys have to work tomorrow? Some of these people were in their 30s, mid-30s, early 40s playing in this league. It's what are you going to do? Go home at 12:30 and be yeah, I fought another grown adult. Could you believe that, hon? Anyway, see you in the morning. Like it
They
was
probably go out drinking after.
Oh, dude, that
big
was the thing. Like you would stay in the locker room and somebody would have like a case of beer and you would just sit as you were all getting changed and drink beer and then or you get changed real quick. Nobody would even shower and we would just go to a bar.
Oh, wow.
And you'd be so thirsty.
Oh,
this is
dude.
how dumb you are too. Is that you're so thirsty? It's I should bring a Gatorade. It was oh, we'll just go and I'll have 7 Labatt's because I'm so thirsty that I can just drink these so quickly. And then you would just it would it's 2:00 in the morning and you're just getting home. You're all amped up. You're kind of buzzed up. It's just a crazy thing. But yeah, man, that the adult league hockey games were so wild because you were just but I get it a little bit. I get it because some of these guys, they had nowhere else to put this, right? They obviously had a job that they didn't love, or they had a lot of stress in their life, and it was I'm going to go to this game tonight and I'm going to find someone to just pop, I have to get this out of me, this venom, and so I do get that.
I think that's great. I think that's necessary.
Did you get in any fights, Dylan?
No. But I will say from your story, I got into a couple of fights when I was younger, but they were barely fights, dude.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was got in a fight last night. Now I look back and I'm no, I just was in the middle of a fight and tried to run away. That's it, dude. Or friendly with a kid after. I remember me and a kid once in college, just being jealous and muchasmo, what's it called? Machismo?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just being a tough guy, and I was never a tough guy. Just pushing each other and one punch to but even if I remember I got in one fight in college and even still I was drunk, but I lightly punched him in the stomach because I didn't want to hurt him. I was
You're still being considerate.
I was scared of hurting somebody. But dude, the best, I played rugby in college. That's honestly where I was way more likely to fight. Was during a game than at the bar after. But the best thing you said is after a rugby game, we would do the same thing. We wouldn't shower. We'd go straight to the bar and have a drink up where we would just get wasted. We would have our games at 11 a.m. We'd be at the bar by 12:31, and then we'd just drink until 5 o'clock. It would still be light out. You'd go home and just maybe take a nap or just keep drinking. The next morning, that shower, when you're dirty and you smell like beer and you're washing yourself, it sounds crazy, but that's the best shower of your life because you're wiping off dirt and you're finding bruises that you didn't know you had from the day yesterday. Oh, so fun, dude. That's the best.
There is a part of me that's
scratches, dude.
When I hear that and I go, when you said 11, I was okay, 11 p.m. That's only a couple hours to drink. And then you said 11 a.m. I was nah, dude. It's not that far removed from my life. When I was in college, I feel but it's so far mentally of being now if I have the other night we were out and there was somebody from Coors Light was there, worked there and was giving us free Coors Lights. I had 4 Coors Lights and woke up with a stomach. I was woke up bloated. My head kind of hurt. I was oh God. I'm so far from that now in my life that it's also a thing too where this godforsaken business of comedy takes so much energy out of you that it used to be fun. It used to be when you were first couple years in, you're let's go to an open mic, let's drink, every night's a party, every night's fun, you know what I mean? I can't wait to get done with my set so I can have some beers. And now you're I need every ounce of energy to get out of bed tomorrow and face reality and edit a video for Instagram Reels. That if I have a hangover, it's going to set me back a couple days. It really does, and
if I get really after it now, I'm done. I'm done for 2 days.
Yeah.
That next day, I'm going to sleep the whole day.
I will say you made a good point with the shower thing. And I think what it has something to do with is we'd always play hockey on New Year's Day morning. It's 7 a.m. So of course, if you were younger, you were not usually sleeping before the game. You were drinking and stuff. But that was the best hangover cure of ever that I've found was like I would wake up, I would be super hungover. It's like I don't feel like going. I would end up going, and you just sweat it all out, and you stink. Like it's a stink that you just like. There's more in here than just sweat. It's all these toxins.
Oh, good.
And by the time you go home, you have a big breakfast because you worked out. You know what I mean? You feel great. Like that is the best hangover cure, I feel like, is just to get it out of you. You know, sweat it out of you.
That is good. Oh, we used to do at the small college. When you said like waking up 11 is early, dude. I mean, we used to do something in Albany called Kegs and Eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it was my favorite fucking day of the year. We would wake up, dude, we're talking 6 a.m., 7 a.m. You're having your first drink by 8 a.m., and we'd all wear green, St. Patty's Day, and we'd go to the bar and just get, like, wasted until, like, once it hit, like, 1 p.m., you're like, wow, we got to go home.
Dude, St. Patrick's Day has got to be one of the worst. I don't know if it's coming from Boston.
Dude, actually, your episode might come out on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, dude,
it might come out a little earlier. I haven't decided yet, but yeah.
St. Patrick's Day is like my dad's side of the family is very Irish, and I'm not like a big drinker by any means. You know, I really, you know, I don't enjoy it. There's something about St. Patrick's Day, and I feel it's like you know, such a fraud thing. But my dad's family loves St. Patrick's Day so much. There's something about St. Patrick's Day when it hits, I'm like, take the day off, baby. Like Irish coffees to start the day. You know, lunch is like, let's get a couple tall Guinnesses in us and then cruise into the evening. Like, I love St. Patrick's Day. I wish I didn't because it seems silly. It seems like a childish thing to enjoy, to like, let's wear green and get drunk. What a silly thing. But
I
it's
love
like,
that, dude.
I love it. I really do.
I kind of hate it. Actually, that story.
I believe that.
That story where I was involved with those people trying to jump me for my wallet and phone. So after that, I'm in Cleveland Circle, right? And Boston. I'm originally, like, I grew up in Needham pretty much, but I'm originally from Brighton. So I know people there. And I'm coming, my clothes are ripped, I'm covered in blood, and I'm still drunk. But I'm also in a good mood because they didn't win that fight, you know? So I'm like, I'm banged out. Now it's daylight now. You know when actually, I don't know if people can relate to this. When, like, you lost your friends 8 hours ago, you're just in this new mode. You're just, like, wandering the streets of Boston. You're like, homeless people are looking at you and talking to their buddy, like, don't talk to him. They're like, this guy's bad. He's out of control. And I run into my aunt.
Oh, wow.
At a crosswalk. And I just remember I was banged out. There was no excuse.
Wait, she's just on her way to work.
Yeah, she's just picking up eggs or something. She's horrified because I don't even live in Brighton anymore. So it's not like I'm not. I got to find my way. I'm like 2 towns over.
Oh,
I remember I didn't even try to cover. You know, I was just like, hey. Now, normally in our family, you should stop and talk to them. But I mean, with this much, I felt it was anything that would come out of my mouth was going to be disrespectful in some way. Right. Not on purpose, but.
No, of course.
That was my vibe on St. Patrick's Day was very similar to New Year's. It was like, I didn't want to black out, but it was coming. And it was coming early. It was coming like before it should, where you're blacked out and it's still light out. I just couldn't. Something about it was always. It's been chaotic in Boston since I was a kid. I went to the St. Patrick's Day parades. Right. I remember when the gay people first marched, and the world has changed a lot, dude. That was a bloodbath. I just want to let you know, and I mean that. It was a bloodbath of blood. By the time they came to me, because I didn't know what to expect.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
By the time they came to my section, they were covered in blood, and they were going hard. They were screaming. The crowds were screaming. It was insane. This was South Boston in the 80s. I think that was a 90s.
Big deal when they wanted
It was
Irish,
the first time.
And
so
they were not happy.
No, and I just remember, like, the vibe of St. Patrick's Day for me is never. And then when I looked into it as a 100% Irish person, I'm like, oh, this is a disgrace. This is supposed to be supposedly the patron saint of Ireland brought Catholicism to Ireland during St. Patrick's Day. And how do we celebrate? We're like, we're going to get blacked out in the day.
Right, yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, it is such a, it's almost like a hack thing to do. You know what I mean? To be like, we're Irish, we're going to drink. You know, it's a very, it's such like a hacky premise. But I don't, like...
People love it.
People really do love it. And they...
Green beers, they're like, I got to have my green beer.
Yeah, you know, and I don't know. There's just something, dude. This is, you know what? Who cares?
Give it to us, baby. We're almost an hour in. Anybody who's gonna care is
we're
referencing
one of these characters, Ray Zawadny, who's not real. He's not a real person, but he boy, I just hope.
I mean, our guests, our listeners will know. Ray was on 3 weeks ago.
Okay,
They'll
all right.
They'll know who Ray is.
So, Ray had a show. We had some shows in Pittsburgh not that long ago, and my dad's. So I'm a Chamberlain, right? That's our in the Chamberlain family. There was the Chamberlains, and then there's the O'Loughlin's. So that's the two sides of the family. So all very Irish, you know, and like. And then the Harkins is the other one. So my aunt always has a big St. Patrick's Day party. Didn't have one, or my cousin, she couldn't have one because of COVID, right? So she postponed it till it was a few months ago. It was halfway, whatever it was, halfway to St. Patrick's Day is I think when she had the party. Ray has a show booked. I go, I'm gonna be. We're both doing it. It's a host does 20. I'm doing like 35. He's doing 35, something like that, right? So, and I'm bringing him up. So he's like, just come whenever, you know. I'm like, I'm gonna be a little bit late. I'm going to stop by this party. He goes, no problem. So of course I go to the party and I'm like, well, it's St. Patrick's Day. I'll have some beers, you know. And I'm a little buzzed up. And then you get to the show and you're like, well, I don't want to just slow down. We'll keep this train rolling. And he's like, are you drinking? You know, and it's like, I wasn't drunk, but I was definitely not in like, I wouldn't say performance shape, you know? And it's like kind of this private, like, Elks Lodge that he books and stuff, and he's trying to keep the room, you know, and I'm like, let's get a beer, you know, while I'm waiting to get on stage and stuff, and like, dude, I completely blew the light, like I went way over, and I'm going in and out of jokes. I'm like not really with it. I go to bring Ray up, and I could see Ray like waving the light, and I'm like, you know, I give him like a point that I'm like, yeah, I got you, whatever, you know, not realizing there's more show to go. And I bring Ray up. I'm like, guys, this next comic, man, he is funny. Like, I give him this huge introduction. I'm like, you've seen him on this. You guys ever listen to this radio station? You've heard him on that? Then you've definitely heard him. I give him this huge thing, and he gets up there, and I just, like, shake his hand, and the look of anger, and just, like, he was so annoyed, and then he goes, keep it going for Collin, Cedric the Entertainer Chamberlain. Just doing whatever he wants up here. And afterwards, he was like, hey, man, what's going on? I was like, nothing, I'm just having a good time, you know? Like, I was like, no, we're just having fun, you know? Like, he was so mad at me for not intentionally, but kind of sabotaging his set and just blowing the light and just giving this super over-the-top introduction that was so unnecessary, and it was just obvious at that point that I had been drinking.
I love that, dude. That's so good.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but St. Patrick's Day, I can't help myself. You know,
it's coming up.
I know. I'm excited. I'm excited. Just think I might have a beer when I get home, just to like, you know. That's my thing though. I'm trying to no beer for a little bit. Maybe no beer till St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
I got to get rid of it's so.
I was going to ask you if you wanted a White Claw right now.
It's such a no. I can't, dude.
Ray had one. It was.
Oh, really... I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Ray had. Let me tell you something about Ray Zawadny. Okay, he's got a lot of nerve. First of all, and I don't even care. I hope he listens to this. He's got a lot of.
This might be a clip, depending on what you say.
Ray has a lot of nerve to comment on someone being, you know, inebriated on a show that he has booked, because I have watched him roll in to a show the same day of like the Pirates home opener and be like, how did you get here? He's like, I don't know. And we'll be like, are you sure you should go on stage? He's like, I don't know. And then go up there and just not even say words. Like so blackout drunk. Ray is... he is the devil. Like, he really is the devil, because he's charming, as the devil would be if he was in human form. He's charming, but he does a lot of things to undermine you and to undermine the success of things. Like, dude, this is... you can, maybe this will be your clip, and you could tag him in this because I've never forgiven him. So Ray, we had a show. I forget what it was. Maybe he had headlined the Improv or something like that. We had a big show at the Improv in Pittsburgh before we had moved to New York, and we were thinking about moving to Chicago. We were very serious that we wanted to move to Chicago. The next morning, I'm picking him up at like 8 o'clock. Actually, what was supposed to happen was he was supposed to sleep at my house. He was supposed to leave the show and sleep at my house because I'm driving to Chicago the next day with him to look at apartments. We have a very tight schedule once we get to Chicago. We only have 2 days to look at apartments. This could be the apartment we live in for X amount of years, whatever it is. The importance, I cannot stress the importance enough of making the time frame, right? So we do this show, and we go out for a beer after, and people from the show come out, and I'm like, hey, dude, I was like, I want to reiterate, like, you're going to sleep at my house. We're driving. We're getting up at 8 a.m. It's like an 8-hour drive, something like that. He's like, of course. And then it turns into like, I'll just meet you in the morning. Like, I'll just come over. No problem. I'm setting my alarms now. I was like, are you sure you don't just want to leave? He's like, no, it's no big deal. I'm just going to go home. I got to get a bag of clothes anyway. Ray is always in need of a bag. Ray is always like, I would do that, but I don't have my bag. He's always a bag short to like commit to anything. So he's like, I got to get my bag and stuff. So I set my alarm. I leave. He's still at the bar. I set my alarm. It's for like 7:30. Get up. Call him. Hey, you on your way? No answer. Like just ringing, nothing. Call him again. Nothing. It's now like 8 o'clock. He's supposed to be at my house by now. Nothing. I call him. It's now like 8:30. I'm like, now we've delayed this a lot, Not, and now it's to the point I'm calling his phone and it's just going straight to voicemail. So I'm like, what is going on? So it's now like 9 o'clock in the morning. We're an hour late to leave for Chicago. We're going to miss the first appointment we have probably. I get in my car and I drive to his house. I'm like, what? I got to see what's happening. I drive around. I see his car is near, parked on one of the side streets. I'm like, Jesus. So he drove home. He must be in the area, I would have to say. I'm pounding on his door. Nothing. Now, at the time, Ray was living at his mom's house. So I'm like, maybe his mom's home. His mom is not home. I'm beating on his door. I'm calling him. I'm yelling outside. I'm like, Ray. It's like 10:30. So like I go, I get gas. I come back because I'm like, we still have to drive to Chicago still. I start literally like Romeo and Juliet style throwing rocks at the window, like a high school like movie. I'm throwing rocks at his bedroom window, like with the intention to break his window, like to wake him up with the. Finally, I'm beating on the door, and I just hear like the lock click. The door opens. He's in Jim's George. He's like, "What's up, dude?" Like so put off. He's like, What? And I'm like, what? I was so furious. I was like, do you know what time it is? I was like, how much work I put into putting these apartments together for us to look at? Like, he's like, all right, man. He's like, just come on in. He's like, I just got to get a bag together. That's what he said. So he didn't even put the bag together last night. So like, I was just like going through. He's like throwing t-shirts into a book bag. He's like, it's fine, man. He's like, I was sick. I don't feel good. He's like, I'm sick. I'm sick, dude. What do you want me to do? I don't feel good. I'm sick. And we ended up leaving. It was the most. Funny. It was the maddest I think I've ever been at him. And I've been pretty upset with him, but it was as long as I've known him, that was the most. I was like, it was the closest I've been to like, you know what? Forget this. We're not moving to Chicago. I'm going home. Cancel everything. Like I was furious. There was a point in me and I was like, I wish it was something that happened because at least it would have given you an excuse, like I was hoping to see like a flat tire on your car or like a branch through the windshield, but
holy shit.
It was just that you didn't plug your phone in when you passed out in your childhood bedroom. That's what happened.
Oh, that's so funny, dude.
No, you also have a podcast. Let's give a shout out to the listeners.
Oh, I do have a podcast. Yeah, it's called Hell Gigs. Which you got to come on, Mike, because you'd be gold. It's all about comedians' worst shows. We talk about their worst shows. I just saw another comic started a very similar podcast, but
What's the name?
you know, I actually don't know the name of it. But I just
even if you knew, you shouldn't say it because
yeah,
we're
I'm not
going to
promote.
people.
I'm not promoting that one. But yeah, Hell Gigs. 83 episodes have been out already.
Nice.
No big
When
deal.
I was telling Kerrigan, I was like, oh yeah, Collin does a podcast called Hell Gigs, and I said, I was like, oh yeah, dude. He said when I mentioned it, he goes, oh, I should have Kerrigan on.
Yeah,
I bet he's. And Kerrigan goes, oh dude, I only have Hell Gigs.
dude, it is so funny to do it, and you just like people are like, oh yeah, I forgot about this show, and like they just all start coming back, and you're like, that's all that people really have. People either have really bad gigs or they have gigs. You know what I mean? Like nobody has like, it was amazing. You know, like it was the best show of my life. Yeah. So I got that out, and then if you don't mind, I have a special out on YouTube. Hello, it's me, and I've got an album out, same title. Hello, it's me. You can stream it, watch it.
And Instagram, YouTube.
Instagram is Collin_comedy. YouTube is just Collin Chamberlin.
Nice.
Twitter is Collin Comedy. So yeah, it's all out there.
How do you feel? You feel like we got a lot in?
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to talk about still?
Do I have anything? I don't think so. I mean, I feel like, you know, with the state of affairs, with the potential of war.
Let's do our war predictions.
Oh
for the
yeah.
future.
Do you want to do war predictions?
I'll start out with I'm on the position of, I think we're got nothing.
Nothing's going to happen.
Not that nothing's going to happen. We're not going. It's not going to be a blow up. It's just whatever. Whatever they're going to do. Whatever they want.
You think it'll be another like Soviet Union?
I think they're going to be allowed. I think whatever Russia's going to do is going to be on. That's it. They're going to do whatever that is. I think it's a lot less than people think. I think
what do you mean?
That they're not. This would be. They're not going to do that much. They're going to do what. They're going to lock down a certain amount.
Oh, they've been bombing a lot.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to intervene. That's what I'm saying. Okay. No U.S. intervention. What do you think?
I agree. I think there's going to be no U.S. intervention, not because Russia. I think Russia's going to do a lot. I think they're going to eat up some land, but U.S. is not going to intervene because they're going to look at the numbers and go, nobody will help. Like we're at the point where no one is going to want to get involved with anything. Like, we've just come out of a pandemic. People are just starting to like travel again. You know what I mean? People are like finally going on vacations they've delayed for years. No one is going to show up. The only way you're going to get people now to show up for like a war is at gunpoint, and you'd have to kill them, and it would just defeat the purpose.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
You can't get half the country to wear a mask / get vaccinated. You think you're going to get half the country to
they got way more than
sign
half.
up
They got
for
way
war?
more than half. They got a lot more than half. But yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying.
I think that it's going to be a very big deal. I think that
Really?
we are seeing a Russian invasion that is going to last for years.
Oh,
we are not
I'm on
gonna,
board with that.
We're not getting involved. I think that the rest of the country, the rest of the world isn't getting involved. But I think we are going to see a brutal stance from the Ukrainian people where it's going to be like some just in the streets, like just knifing Russian soldiers, and like civilians are going to take up arms and defend their land. That's what I'm predicting.
They've called for, the Ukrainian president was like, we need all able-bodied people to come and pick up defenses to defend the Ukraine. Like they called for it like today or yesterday or something. Like he was like, if you have any military experience, you are required to come check in. Like the state of the Ukrainian sovereignty is in your hands now, and
damn,
like, it's crazy.
It
is
shit.
wild. Yeah. So, but I just got a new Xbox, so it's hard it is hard.
There's a lot going on, dude. I got a trip. I'm
compartmentalize,
going to Aruba in a couple of days,
Right,
dude.
right.
I'm trying to.
I hear the stocks are down.
That's what I heard too. I'm trying to lose weight.
Dude, every day I'm trying to lose weight. Every day I look at myself and I go, what would it take? What would it take? Like, what would you be willing to give up to drop like 15 pounds? Like, not even diet and exercise. I'm talking about like, would you lose a cousin? You know what I mean? And I'm starting to think yes.
Dude, we talked about this on Ray's episode. If you for $1 billion, would you if you got $1 billion, would you let a family member die? And Ray said absolutely.
Wow, do you get to pick the family member?
Yeah. And you don't even have to do it. You just got to he was ready to do it with his bare hands, but it could be a distant relative.
It was like, yeah.
And they just die, and then that's it. Yeah.
Ray's calling his dad.
He was
like,
chomping at the bit about the whole thing.
Dude, he was psyched.
So you get to pick the person.
Yeah, but like you get $1 billion in your bank account or wherever you want it, but you know that a family member that you picked died because of that.
Would the rest of the family know it was you?
We didn't get into that, but like maybe, yeah, probably. How are you going to explain where the $1 billion came from?
I honestly, this is going to be terrible, but I think my family would be pretty on board with it. Like, I think they would sort of be like, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some older relatives, and
they go early,
like as long as, they're going to want to make sure that there are no strings attached, that like this is, we're not going to be in trouble for this. But I do think my family would sort of rally behind the fact of like, for $1 billion, we could do a lot.
It's a lot. It's it's generational wealth.
We could do a lot of things.
Multi-generational wealth.
I mean, my mom has been looking at like a new Keurig for a long time. And I feel like just if you would have offered that, she'd be like, yeah, I definitely have like some cousins I don't talk to.
Dude, I want that money where you can get like a Keurig in every room, and that's not that much money. But where you can get like a
You're
Keurig,
describing like $1,000. I feel like,
or like you have a wardrobe in multiple places, like where you don't have to pack. You can just like bring clothes somewhere, and when you leave, just throw them away.
Dylan just described an unemployment check. Dylan described one of the stimulus packages that people got. He was like, dude, I think it would just be cool, like if you had like a $200 gadget in every room. How many rooms do you have?
6 rooms. It's 12.
Right.
That's literally a stimulus check.
Yeah,
it's
right.
$1,200.
Yeah. That's what I think like performing arts does to you. It really lowers your value and your expectations of things to go like, so, some people go like, I want like a 4-car garage and I want to fill it with this, and I want a huge house. We're just like, it'd be pretty cool to get one of those like light systems that works on your phone. Like, wouldn't that be awesome to one day have like, to be like, hey Siri, turn on the bedroom lights. It's like, if you had $300, you could do that. Like
exactly.
If you're like, well, $300, I don't have that kind of, I'd have to liquefy some assets, if we're gonna do that. So, yeah,
I love that. All right, dude, you feel good?
I feel
good.
Right.
Man, this was a fun one.
So, Sea Otter Town Hall Podcast. We're here.
Out every Thursday at Mike T. Kerrigan on Instagram, at Dylan Krasinski on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Give Collin a follow. Give him a subscribe. Go check out his album and his special on YouTube, and we will see you next week. Good night.